I have to talk about Mark Robinson because it's the story that fills me with so much joy this week. Mark Robinson is this guy who is running for governor of North Carolina. He is the current lieutenant governor of North Carolina. And it's North Carolina is one of those states where the governor and the lieutenant governor do not run on the same ticket. They run separately. So the governor, Roy Cooper, is a Democrat, but the lieutenant governor, Mark Robinson, is very much not a Democrat. He's like a hardcore MAGA cultist. In fact, when Kamala Harris was thinking about who to choose for her vice president, Roy Cooper was on the short list. After all, he is a Democratic governor in kind of a purple reddish state, and maybe that helps in the election, you know? And Roy Cooper was thinking, you know what? If you choose me to be vice president, that means Mark Robinson would be running the state of North Carolina, which is a horrible thing for his state. And Roy Cooper actually said, you should not vet me for vice president. That's how bad Mark Robinson is. He made Roy Cooper not want to even be considered for vice president. So let's talk about Mark Robinson, because I'm not kidding when I say he's one of those mega cultists. The reason I knew about this guy long before he was running for governor is because he has a habit of saying horrible, horrible things in front of church audiences. Just to give you, a couple examples of things he has said. In 2021, he told a crowd at a right-wing rally that Christian patriots of this nation will own this nation and rule this nation. So that's scary. He said that forcing religion in public schools through like mandatory prayers, that would prevent mass shootings, which is not how that works at all. He said transgenderism and homosexuality amount to filth. He used the word filth. He said the trans movement is demonic and full of antichrist spirit. He said straight couples are superior to gay ones. He also said famously at a rally this past June, he said to the crowd, some folks need killing. And, your guess is as good as mine in terms of who he thinks those folks are. But that's a scary thing for any politician to say in front of a large audience. So I'm going to get back to some of the crazy things he said in a little bit. But the reason all this is very, very amusing this week, because again, he is an extremist. He's relying on the Christian vote to carry him into the governorship, where right now, not only is he losing to the Democrat Josh Stein, he's losing by a lot. Like Donald Trump famously like drags down other Republicans in down ballot elections, but Mark Robinson may actually be dragging Trump down. That's how unpopular he is. There was an article this week in an outlet called The Assembly, which covers North Carolina politics, and the headline is just glorious. Let me share this with you here. Ex-porn shop employees say Mark Robinson was a regular. He denies it. Mark Robinson is the man on the left, the big guy there. But some of the things that are interesting in this article, I'll get back to the specifics in a second, but they mention in this piece that in 2022, Mark Robinson wrote a memoir. And he wrote in there that he found Jesus in the late 1980s. Sometime in the late 1980s, he found Jesus. He became born again. He's been a good Christian ever since, you would think. And yet, according to this article, in the 1990s and early 2000s, like whatever training wheels you have as a Christian when you just become a Christian, you might say, yeah, I accepted Jesus, but I was still kind of a sinner for a little while there. Well, guess what? When you're in the 90s and the early 2000s, those training wheels have been on for a long time. You should figure it. You should have it figured out by then. Well, it turns out during those 90s, 2000s, when he was more obscure and not a politician, he spent like all of his free time going to sex shops to the point where they all knew who the guy was. Okay, that's how often he went to these places. And the main source in this article is a guy named Louis Money, which is the shadiest possible name imaginable. And guess what? This guy does have a shady past, but it's not just one dude. So that's important. But let me get to this article here. Money, 52, told the assembly that Robinson came in as often as 5 nights a week to watch porn videos in a private booth. 5 other men who said they were former employees or customers during this period also told the assembly that Robinson visited 2 of these stores: Gents Video and News and I-40 Video and News. I-40 suggests like we're just getting off the highway at this point and going to get taken care of or to take care of yourself, whatever. Listen, I'm not even judging the dude, but we'll get back to this in a second. Scrolling down, this is a picture of Mark Robinson speaking at church. Anyway, in addition, Money said, Robinson purchased hundreds of bootleg porn videos that Money sold on the side. He was good for at least one a week, Money said. But Money said Robinson didn't pay for the last one, which he described as a compilation of super hardcore films he acquired in New York City that were too risque to be sold in North Carolina. That's the sort of stuff Mark Robinson likes most. And listen, I don't care. I genuinely would not care what Mark Robinson does in his free time if he wasn't running for office, and two, if he wasn't running for office on a platform of I'm the Christian and that makes me the moral dude in this race, and also he wants to just take away women's rights and he trashes LGBTQ people. You cannot do all that pretending you're trying to take the moral high ground on those issues and then do this in your free time, right? That's the problem I have with this story. And also, sorry, gotta get this out of the way. 5 nights a week? Like hundreds of videos? How do you find time for that? I don't understand it. Like maybe if you're working a lot and you're busy and let's say you don't even have kids, but you're working 5 nights a week? Jesus, how does anyone have that much free time? As an adult, I don't understand it. College students are busier than that. So, anyway, his campaign denies all of this. Of course they do. They called the story bullshit. That's a direct quotation, which is kind of hilarious coming from the Christian campaign team. But they did say, yeah, Mark Robinson does know that Lewis Money fellow, but not because he visited sex shops, just cuz. But like, first of all, Money's recollections of Robinson are very specific, and those 5 other dudes they interviewed also seem to know a lot about the guy. I want to share with you a wonderful quotation from this guy, Money, as well. Uh, this may be my favorite thing that I've read out loud in a very long time. Here we go. This went on for several years, Money said. Robinson came in after his shifts at pizza restaurants and hung out for hours. He said Robinson's tastes were fairly standard for a straight man, though he added, I know he might have problems with gay people, but I don't think he has problems with lesbians. This is the Jesus candidate for office. Great quotation right there. Love that he's calling that out. So, again, where am I going with this? These people have fond memories of the guy. Even if Money was making all this up, which I don't really buy, I think this is legit. It still doesn't account for all the other employees who have very specific memories of Robinson's visits to their stores. And by the way, it's not like they all hate the guy. They all say things like, when Robinson came to the shop, he was awesome. He would sometimes bring us pizza because he worked at a pizza place. Like, they actually fondly remember that dude, and they like the dude back then. Now he's like a MAGA cultist who is just extreme, and they're not vouching for him now. But again, if you were trying to say this, if you were thinking these guys are out to get Mark Robinson or something, I don't think that's what you would expect anyone to say. Yeah, he was a really cool guy. He came in, he brought us food. We chatted for a while. We liked him. And yet that's what all these guys are saying. So again, this should not be a story. I don't care what this guy did in his private life, especially before he was in elected office, and especially when it's all legal and consensual, which all of this is. But when your entire political career and your entire political brand is promoting Christian extremism and painting yourself as the moral savior that the state needs, and you treat LGBTQ people as sexual deviants. And the only time I've heard Mark Robinson use the word pornography in speeches is when he's talking about public school teachers supposedly like feeding that to children because they read books. Then your non-Jesus-y actions should become a campaign issue because Mark Robinson is a hypocrite. And the Republicans who vote for him are hypocrites. And the Christians who prop this guy up are hypocrites. Like, Mark Robinson's the guy who made his religion the center of his political persona. And now it seems pretty clear that what he says is very different from what he does. So yeah, it's about damn time all of this hypocrisy caught up to him. And like I said, he has said horrible things recently for many years. So it's not like hypocrisy is new. It's not like he's secretly a nice dude who volunteers. No, he always says the worst things imaginable all the time. Let me give you another example of that. This is a post he made in 2018. 2018. Okay. Check this out. I see the comments. Don't worry, we're getting to that soon. This is the thing he posted in 2018. The first sentence doesn't matter. Look at the second sentence. This foolishness about Hitler disarming millions of Jews and then marching them off to concentration camps is a bunch of hogwash. He's a Holocaust denier on top of all the other horrible things he has said and done. Like, this guy, he is so horrible at everything. And of course, when it comes to abortion, this is no different. He has said I think he said this in a 2021 speech, that once a woman is pregnant, it's not her body anymore. Let me show you his campaign website also, because I found this interesting. Um, Here we go. This is his campaign website, and he had this interesting issues page. Of course, he's for the Second Amendment, loves the Second Amendment, right? But look at this section under pro-life. The last line, as a Christian, Mark will honor the sanctity of life. But of course, post Roe v. Wade, after the Dobbs decision, that's probably not something you want to brag about in the state of North Carolina, where abortion rights are like on the ballot. So that line is no longer on his campaign page. This is from the Internet Archive, like from it's from a couple of years ago. Oh, I'm sorry, it's from 2023. He has removed this line from his page. So that's interesting that he's like the most anti-abortion person you will ever find, and yet even he's backing away from saying all these horrible abortion things. He actually just put out a campaign ad this week that talks about how he wants to make sure the people who need medical procedures and stuff, it's always got to be safe. We got to make exceptions and things like that, which is a lie because he's the most extreme guy you can find. And of course, then there was this headline that you may have seen a couple of years ago because, again, very anti-abortion. This guy, just check out the headline. North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, an outspoken conservative, says he paid for an abortion in 1989. Which, by the way, if you do the timeline on this thing, remember he found Jesus in the late 80s, which I assume would not be like Christmas Eve 1989. It's probably before that. So my understanding is he found Jesus and then paid for an abortion. What does that tell you about his supposed morality? Who knows anymore at this point, right? Uh, and in case and he paid for his wife's abortion at the time, which again shouldn't be a story. That should be a normal thing people are allowed to do. But when you're Mark Robinson, that hypocrisy is a story. And by the way, his wife is not much better on any of this stuff. I wanted to show you this story as well. Actually, I'll just show you the headline because this is what his wife is doing during all this stuff. Where did it go? Come back. There we go. From the Associated Press. North Carolina regulators say a nonprofit run by Lieutenant Governor's wife owes the state $132,000. She's stealing money from the state to run her nonprofit. And even that's not as horrible as this other headline that came out, I think, last month. The Girl Scouts sued the wife of North Carolina Republican gubernatorial candidate Mark Robinson over nearly $3,000 in money owed. And they won. She stiffed the Girl Scouts. She bought all the Thin Mints, wrote them a check for $3,000, which is a lot of cookies, and the check like bounced, and then she never made up for it. Just took the cookies and ran or something. She stiffed the Girl Scouts. Like, what the hell? Lying in the name of Jesus appears to be their family business. And when that abortion story came out, North Carolina Republicans, they didn't comment on it. They didn't want to comment on it. They said it was a personal matter, which again, I agree with them on that. They wanted to respect Mark Robinson's privacy. And yet, we're talking about the same party and the same candidate who are all pushing for policies to restrict medical options for women because they don't think women deserve that kind of privacy. Like, all these people think abortion is murder. And then when one of their own gets an abortion and pays for an abortion, they're like, well, I guess murder is fine. Like, it's a personal matter now. I don't know. I still haven't seen them comment on the sex shop allegations. They're all dodging that one with a 10-foot pole, which is, I don't know. I don't want to use measurements with the story about sex shops. You know, the irony here is that Mark Robinson's life, it represents the future that progressives are fighting for. One where if you personally want to go to a sex shop, go. No one cares. If you want to get an abortion or you need to get an abortion, go get an abortion. That's between you and your partner and stuff like that, and your doctor. It's not anyone else's business. And Mark Robinson has taken advantage of all those freedoms while at the same time running for office as a conservative who wants to revoke all those freedoms from everyone else. He is living proof that sinners, as Christians believe them to be, can do just fine. This guy had abortions because it was convenient or whatever. He went to sex shops because he felt like it. And he still found a way to be successful in the political world, in his words, like, despite all those things. Because why would they hinder you? They shouldn't hinder you. But now the only way he can become governor is by telling Christian audiences that the sort of actions he's taken his entire life are evil and disqualifying if you are anybody except Mark Robinson. Like, no one expects a politician to be perfect. I expect them to do basic small lies. I expect them to be hypocrites in some way or another. But like, Robinson is proof that in the Republican Party, the truth is just completely irrelevant. Hypocrisy, totally irrelevant. As long as you deny everything and then attack the people who point out what you did, gullible conservative voters will always treat you like a king. I think my favorite headline from all of this, I do want to give them credit. It came from New York Magazine. Let me see if I could find this here. Here we go. Just a beautiful headline. Mark Robinson, the Republican candidate for governor in North Carolina, reportedly watched porn in private booths up to 5 days a week in the 90s. He strenuously denies that, as well as the Holocaust. Beautiful headline. 10 out of 10. No notes. That is perfect. Um, I think that's all we got to say, because you know what? Next week, Mark Robinson will have a different scandal. Someone else will find out something about his past that totally violates everything he's running on right now. And the sad thing is, he's losing in the polls right now, but you never know how these things are going to turn out. This is the guy Christians are voting for. This is the guy they want their kids to grow up to be like, because they treat their politicians like idols, don't they? Okay, I'll pause there. What questions do we have, Den? What comments do we have on any of this? Robin says, I have no problem with the visits to porn shops, but I have strong issues with the hypocrisy. Do as I say, not as I do. Same old mantra of the religious. Yeah, again, and what they're doing is very different from what they're saying. And so all the more reason for everyone to call them out on it. When you are like Ted Haggard, for those of you who remember 20 years ago, and you spend your life giving sermon after sermon about how gay people are evil, And then turns out you enjoy visiting male escorts. Then that stuff doesn't get to stay private. Now you are being not just a hypocrite, but someone whose hypocrisy is literally harming other people because of what you do for a living. So at that point, it's fair game. I hope there's more stuff we learn about Mark Robinson, because I don't know what it'll take for conservative voters in North Carolina to realize this guy is just, he has no principles. He has no platform on which to stand, because he'll just say or do whatever the hell he wants and then say something to an audience, because even he seems to know the Christians he speaks to are dumb enough to fall for whatever he's saying because they won't look into his past. And of course, you can expect conservatives to just pretend, oh, it's all hit jobs on him. They're all just trying to trash him because he's going to win. They'll never just say, yeah, it's true. I said I found Jesus, but I'm not really a Christian until now. Oh, you found a Holocaust tweet? You know what? I was a Christian after that. It just took 20 years. 30 years? Whatever it is, 30 years now. All right. What other questions we got? Wait, is he the same guy as the "some people need to be killed" guy? Yep, that's the dude. Mark Robinson said some people just need to be killed at a rally for right-wing extremists, like this past summer. Same dude. He's just that horrible. He's so quotable too. Like, even some Republicans are like, maybe I should keep my mouth shut for a little while so I don't say anything stupid. And Mark Robinson's like, just get me a microphone. I'll say anything you want. They do not care about being hypocritical. They only care about controlling the rest of us. Absolutely. And what I don't get is, I get why Mark Robinson is like this, because if he lies, he gets to be governor, maybe. What I don't get are the Christians who are voting for him because they see him as the Christian candidate. He's not Josh Stein, if you know what they mean. They're all voting for him on the basis of his Christian morality or whatever, because if you're a Christian, you're good. And then these stories keep coming out. How many of these stories will it take before they decide, you know what? I can't vote for the Democrat, so I'm going to stay home. I can't bring myself to vote for the Republican. That at least would make sense to me. What I don't get are these people who are like, we need a good Christian in office, and then they vote for a dude like this. That doesn't make any sense. That's just people who don't care about anything, have no moral principles, nothing that they stand for. What does it say about the people who vote for this guy? They are so corrupt. And yet every time he's confronted on anything, it's always, they're just out to get me, conspiracy theories every time. No kidding. Again, it's not just one dude, it's the whole party, it's the whole right-wing ecosystem. I mean, you must have seen the news this week about like right-wing YouTubers who got paid $400,000, $500,000 for basically spreading Russian propaganda. And what are they saying now? Now that they've been caught and charged by the Department of Justice, they're like, they didn't tell me what to say. I would never take money like that. If you're making like $4,000 a month on YouTube, and then someone says, here's 400,000 a month on YouTube, are you seriously not going to ask any questions about where this money's coming from? Because you're clearly not worth that much. But again, they don't care because they'll say anything you want them to say for the right price, or in Mark Robinson's case, for the power. Like, I don't care, whatever. Doesn't matter what my past is. I'll just say I'm the Christian one, and I'll go overboard in talking about how Christian I am. Just don't look into my past.